Chapter 2. Journey into the Black Forest. As reward for his heroic feat, Dyaxes was named commander of the Teluvian army. However, the dragon the hero had slain to gain his title had reduced Teluvia's army to nothing, leaving Dyaxes as the commander of an army of one. At the king's table the following night, Dyaxes discussed the future of the army with the Luthien. "Your Highness," the commander spoke, "with your permission, I would like to establish a group of field captains, knights if you will, to lead our forces during battle." "Who would these knights be?" the king inquired. "Only the bravest of warriors, sire," Dyaxes replied. "How do you plan on selecting such individuals?" a Luthien asked. "A test," Dyaxes said, "some kind of display of courage." "Your idea makes good sense," the king noted. "What manner of test do you have in mind?" "An expedition into the Black Forest," the commander replied. All other conversations at the table went silent as Dyaxes' bold challenge drew everyone's attention. "Anyone with the courage and skill to return with the carcass of a wolf will be worthy enough to be a knight in my army." "'Tis a dangerous task indeed," the king remarked in a tone that reflected his uneasiness over the idea. "It needs to be," Dyaxes insisted. "I wonder how many candidates would be willing to embark on such a perilous quest," Luthien mused. "I would," Ecvian announced as he rose from his chair. "So would I," Cerberus proclaimed. Errol prepared to do the same, but a quick glare from his father kept him in his place. "Boys," the king protested, "you are already princes in this kingdom. You do not need to prove yourselves with such an endeavor. My reasons for going are not to seek approval from the people of the kingdom," Ecvian explained. "I wish to prove something to myself. And if we end up famous, all the better," Cerberus laughed. "This is no laughing matter," the king said sternly. "This is not like a hunting trip in the Golden Woods. The Black Forest is a wicked place. Evil things lurk there. I am sorry, but I will not allow you to go there. Believe me, it is for your own good." "Actually, I think it might be a good experience for them," Dyaxes said in defense of the boys. "But the danger, Dyaxes," the king protested. "Worry not, sire," Dyaxes said. "I will teach your sons all I know. By the time we set off on our quest, no elf or man, let alone a wolf, will be a match for them. You have my word on this." A Luthien looked into the eyes of his sons. There was a fire in them he had never seen. Their soft gray eyes were now bright and burning with desire. He could not deny them the opportunity for which they so longed. "You are certain they are up to such a challenge?" a Luthien asked the commander one last time. "Very certain," Dyaxes replied confidently. "Very well then," the king sighed. "If Dyaxes feels you are ready, then I will not stand in your way. But by all means, be careful." Dyaxes spent a month training the princes, from dawn to dusk. Though Errol would not be going on the quest, he was allowed to join his brothers in their drills. A month was by no means enough time to make them masters of warfare, but their own natural skills and Dyaxes' careful instruction combined to make them more than adequate swordsmen. While their training would certainly be an ongoing process, Dyaxes dared not put off the mission any longer. Teluvia had more enemies than Mordraken, and they were undoubtedly aware of the toll the dragon had taken on the kingdom's defenses. Assembling an army was the kingdom's greatest priority now that the dragon was dead. But an army needed leaders, and Dyaxes knew exactly how to find the type of warriors he wanted to lead his army. Word of the contest spread quickly throughout the kingdom. Candidates came from far and wide to face the challenge presented by Dyaxes. The hopeful contestants gathered at the crossroads city of Telesway to prepare for the quest that was to begin at month's end. The rather large elven town was located on the eastern edge of the Golden Forest, where the Great North Road and the Tel Devor Road met. It was a thriving trade center and a place of interaction between elves and men of other lands. In all, 30 individuals had gathered outside the city of Telesway for the contest. All were elves, except for one. He was a tall man, with light brown hair and icy blue eyes. He had the hardened, chiseled body of a warrior, but his manner was that of a nobleman. A gray cloak covered his woodsman's attire. As Dyaxes looked over each hopeful contender, he stared into their eyes. Each candidate turned away from his dark glance, except for one. The man in the gray cloak looked directly into the eyes of the commander without so much as a blink. "You are not an elf," Dyaxes said to the stranger. "Neither are you," the man in gray replied. "It is just that I am not sure if the king would trust a human to be a leader in his army," the commander explained. Actually, it was Dyaxes who did not trust the stranger. He felt an unexplainable chill run through him when he looked into the eyes of the gray-cloaked man. It was a feeling he did not like. However, the commander's words did not appear to daunt the stranger. "The king has obviously placed a great deal of faith in you," the man in gray noted. His tone was close to being contentious, close enough to instill a slight ripple of anger in Dyaxes. "I have earned his trust," Dyaxes said in a voice that barely concealed his irritation. "I plan to do the same," the stranger retorted. "Besides, the sign posted said the contest was open to all." "So it did," Dyaxes conceded. Here was a man who was not easily intimidated. There was a part of Dyaxes that respected the stranger's confidence, but there was a greater part of him that distrusted it. "What is your name, stranger?" he asked. "Yedrol," the stranger answered. "Yedrol," Dyaxes said. "That sounds like an elven name. How did you happen upon such a name?" "It was given to me by my parents," Yedrol answered. "What kind of parents would give a human an elven name?" Dyaxes inquired. "Elven parents," Yedrol replied. "They are my adopted parents. My real parents died when I was just an infant. I have lived among the elves for virtually all my life. So, actually, one could say I am more of a Toluvian than you." "Yes, I suppose one could say that," Dyaxes said with a smile that concealed more hostile emotions. There was definitely something about Yedrol that Dyaxes did not like. He decided that he would keep a close eye on the gray-cloaked warrior. But for now, he diverted his attention back to the other candidates, who were starting to grow restless. "Let me explain your task once more," Dyaxes spoke. "You are to go into the Black Forest. There you will kill a wolf, returning to this place with its carcass. This is by no means a simple task. These are no ordinary creatures. They are far fiercer than any you may have encountered before. The forest itself contains many dangers. Some of you might not return, but those who do, with beast in hand, will receive a place of honor in my army. Good luck to all, and let the hunt begin." Trumpets blared as the warriors set off, heading east on the Tel Devor road. For all practical purposes, travel along this portion of the road ended in Telesway. Traveling any further would soon bring one to the mist-shrouded land of Devordia. Almost no one traveled that way any longer. Chances were any who did could not be trusted. However, it had not always been this way. Many years ago, when Eluthian's father, King Ordrian, was still alive, the Black Forest was as golden as the woods of Teluvia. But when evil took hold of the kingdom of Devordia, the land became dark and dangerous. Fierce and hideous creatures claimed it for their home. Now no one went there, for fear of being killed. Indeed, as the ominous land of shadows grew closer, many of the elves were beginning to have second thoughts. In fact, a few had even turned back. The silence was deathlike. All around them was open land, once called the Emerald Fields. In the days before the reign of evil in Devordia, the Teluvians and Devordians shared the rich farmland. But the land became scarred by war. Battles of epic proportions had taken place on the lush plain during the war with Devordia. Elven blood, both Teluvian and Devordian, stained the green fields. Hence its new name, the Plain of Blood. Now no one claimed the land. All was desolate, as no one wished to live so close to the evil land. It was among such bleak surroundings that the warriors journeyed. Uneasiness filled their hearts as they crossed the barren fields where brave soldiers of old had met their doom. Ahead of them loomed a thick wall of fog. "Is that the forest?" Ectheon asked in near breathless awe. No, not yet, Dyaxis replied. This is the Devordian Vale. We are now leaving Tuluvian soil. If any of you are considering turning back, do it now. Once we venture into the mist, if you fall behind or stray from the path, you might never return. Of the 30 travelers who had started the journey, only 10 remained. Cautiously, they entered the dense fog. Cerebus drew his sword, prompting Dyaxis to look back. Not a bad idea, the commander said. You never know what you might encounter in this land. It is best to be prepared. Ectheon stayed close behind Dyaxis, following his every step. Though he tried not to show it, he was terrified. This was a completely new experience for him. He had never left the Golden Forest before, let alone wander into such a dangerous place. He had always led a very sheltered and uneventful life. Such a lack of excitement he had never cared for up until that moment. Now he longed for the shelter of his father's castle, with good food and a warm fire. He was cold, tired, and hungry. The moisture in the air soaked his clothes, which now clung uncomfortably to his body. If this was the type of adventure Dyaxis had in store for him, he was not sure if he cared for it. His brother Cerebus shared his feelings, for the most part. Although, with Dyaxis around, he somehow felt safer. As he watched the tall, dark figure leading them through the mist, he was struck with admiration. How he longed to be like Dyaxis. The commander was brave, confident, and strong, an excellent leader. Everyone respected him and honored his name. When the maidens returned from Virillion, all would undoubtedly swoon at the thought of being the commander's bride. Cerebus found it remarkable how Dyaxis could look so calm and confident as they walked through the dreaded land. The young prince dared not show any sign of fear, for he did not want to look like a coward in the eyes of the commander. The long march through the land of fear began to take its toll on the travelers. The company's number dwindled still further, as a few more elves had either turned back or were hopelessly lost in the fog. Ectheon's morale was not improving, though he still voiced no complaints. A sudden announcement from Dyaxis abruptly changed the young prince's state of mind. "We are here," the commander announced. Ectheon looked up at the dark trees before him, their gnarled branches outstretched menacingly toward him. How well the mist had disguised the woods. So low was the visibility that the trees appeared to have suddenly come out of nowhere. Dyaxis looked back at the group. Only 5 remained in addition to himself, the 2 sons of Eluthian and their cousin Diolus, the man named Eadril, and the elf Arlon of Dunsborough. "I see that most of our fellow travelers have lost their battle with fear," Dyaxis observed. "Just by making it this far, you have proven a great deal to me. I now know that you have courage. But now I need to know that you can kill without being killed. Ignore the fog. Pay no heed to these dark, twisted trees. Mist cannot harm you. Trees will not attack. If you let such trivial objects take your attention, you will never succeed in battle, whether it be against a mighty kingdom or a pack of wolves. Stay focused. It is all right to be afraid, but control your fear. Do not let it control you. Now, as you know, wolves attack in packs. Therefore, for the safety of all concerned, we will stay in a pack of our own. Each individual will be responsible for killing at least one wolf, depending on the size of the pack. By working together in such a manner, we can achieve our goal quickly and easily. This will be quite similar to an actual war. After all, a war is nothing more than a group of soldiers carrying out individual acts for a common cause. If we, together, accomplish our goal, then we will all return home as heroes." Dyaxis' words lifted the spirits of the group. The fear of the forest was now gone. After all, as Dyaxis had said, it was only wood. Cerebus was even so bold as to touch the ebony-colored bark of one of the trees. "See," Dyaxis said, "there is nothing to fear. It is a tree, the same as any tree in Teluvia. It is merely a different color." Dyaxis' words were cut short by the howl of a wolf. The baleful cry was answered by that of another beast. Soon the forest around them roared with the savage barking of the vicious predators. "Prepare yourselves. Diaxes shouted. "There is no turning back now. Run away, and they will catch you and feast on your flesh. Stand and fight, and their hides will become our trophies." From out of the mist, the creatures sprang. Their numbers were great, 3 for nearly every person. Instantly, blood began to spill. Cerberus thought back to Diax's lessons in the courtyard as he drove his blade through one of the beasts. Ectheon had made a kill as well, though the 2 remaining wolves near the prince seemed to be getting the better of him. As he took a swing at one, the other lunged at his leg. Feeling an intense shout of pain, Ectheon quickly stabbed at the snarling beast whose teeth were sunken into his flesh. Diaxes slew 2 of the beasts with little difficulty, but a 3rd wolf jumped on his back and knocked him to the ground. Before the beast could so much as scratch the fallen warrior, it was driven through and killed. When Diaxes turned to see who had rescued him, he saw the icy blue eyes of Aedril. "Well done, Aedril," the commander said, as the gray-cloaked warrior helped him to his feet. Aedril nodded in acknowledgement of Diax's praise. The commander then turned to the others. He watched as Arlon drove his sword into the last wolf. All around them lay the bodies of the slaughtered beasts. Ectheon was on the ground as well, clinging to his injured leg. The wolf's teeth had left their bloody mark on the prince's lower leg. Miraculously, he was the only one injured. The others had endured the onslaught with only a few minor scratches. Diaxes and the other warriors quickly ran over to where the injured prince was lying. "Ectheon, what happened? Are you all right?" the commander asked. "One of the wolves bit me," Ectheon grimaced as he showed the wound to Diaxes. The commander frowned as he looked at the bite marks. "The wound is bad," Diaxes said. "We must return home quickly, so you can be properly attended to." Diaxes tried not to show it, but he was worried. All the trust he had tried to gain in the king would be ruined if Ectheon should turn out to be seriously injured, or worse yet, die. The bite of a wolf could be most deadly. Whether Ectheon realized it or not, his life was in great danger. If the prince did not die from a loss of blood, which was a very real possibility considering the length of the journey back to Telesway, odds were that an infection would set in and eventually take his life. "May I have a look?" Aedril asked. "I have seen such bite wounds before. Perhaps I can help." Diaxes moved back to give Aedril some room. The stranger had already saved him. Now the commander hoped that Aedril could do the same for Ectheon. Diaxes watched anxiously as Aedril examined the bite marks. "First, we must clean the wound to prevent an infection," the warrior said. "But there is no water around us," Cerberus remarked, "and our canteens were all empty by the time we reached the edge of the forest." "We have more than enough water," Aedril said as he grabbed the corner of his cloak. Taking the gray cloth in his hands, he held it above Ectheon's wound. As Aedril squeezed the dew-soaked fibers, water poured down onto the prince's leg, washing away the blood. Once the wound was cleaned, he pulled some herbs from his pack and placed them on the wound. "What is that?" Diaxes asked. "Monk's clover," Aedril replied. "It is very useful in warding off infections." Aedril then tore off part of his cloak to use as a bandage. He wrapped it tightly to slow the bleeding. Aedril then turned to the others and spoke. "Arlon, Dialis, go find some long, sturdy branches. Do not venture too far off," Diaxes warned them. Aedril turned to Ectheon and said, "Do not worry, you will be all right. Just lie here and rest." His words of comfort drew a smile from the young elf's pale face. A few minutes later, Arlon and Dialis returned with 2 dark tree limbs. "Now we can make a stretcher," Aedril said as he took off his gray cloak. He tore the cloth in several places to secure it to the branches. "There, all done. It is crude, but it will suffice. Cerberus, help me move your brother." Together, they carefully lifted Ectheon onto the stretcher. "We will take turns carrying him," the commander said. "Aedril and I will take the first shift. Dialis, you and Arlon take a wolf. We must have a trophy to show the people back home. Hurry now, we must go." The trip back to Telesway was an uneventful one. Gone was the fear of the misty plains. Much to his surprise, Ectheon was feeling much better. The pain of the wounds still nagged him, but it was nothing compared to before. Whatever Adril had done to him had worked. It was well past nightfall when the band of warriors finally reached Hellas Way. The hunters were greeted at the city gates with a tremendous ovation. All stared in awe at the adventurers who had ventured into the Forbidden Land and the beast they brought back with them. There was some concern over Ectheon's state, but it was dispelled as he showed his health by sitting up and waving to the onlookers. "It appears as though you are feeling better," Dyaxes observed. "The pain is almost gone," Ectheon replied. Arlon and Diolus carried the injured prince, while Cerberus walked with the mighty wolf slung across his shoulders. It was quite a sight to behold, seeing one of the king's sons lugging a beast like a common woodsman. Of course, no woodsman had ever killed such an unusual and dangerous creature. Not since the days of King Ardrian had a member of the Tuluvian royal family taken part in such outlandish behavior. The travelers proceeded directly to the inn to clean up and relax. There was much merriment that night as the warriors feasted and told of their exploits. The listeners gazed in wonder as Dyaxes vividly recalled the encounter. Many of the curious were elves that had turned back during the early stages of the quest. After hearing the harrowing tale, some were glad they did not go, but most wished they had. The celebration was made even more joyous by the fact that Ectheon could walk on his injured leg with a little help from a cane. This pleased Dyaxes immensely, for now he would not face the wrath of the king. The commander sent a message to Eleuthean to tell him that the mission had been a success and that they would return to Argon the following day.